All right, we are recording, so we will go ahead and call to order the pre-meeting for the West Jordan Planning Commission for tonight, November 17th, 2020. This is only our second pre-meeting since COVID started, and it's been a month since the last one. I don't remember. Do I need to read the little paragraph both times,
Yes.
or just a second time?
No, both.
Okay. Let me read this really quick then, and hopefully we can get Jay on board before we get done with it. Due to the increased threat of serious illness and loss of life by the rapid spread of the COVID-19 virus, the chair of the West Jordan Planning Commission has determined that conducting this Planning Commission meeting at the City Hall or at another anchor location is likely to contribute to the spread of COVID-19 and would present a substantial risk to the health, safety, and welfare of the city's residents, participants, and observers. Therefore, pursuant to Utah Code 52-4-2074, the West Jordan Planning Commission hereby declares that the meetings of this public body will be held only electronically until further notice. This determination will expire in 30 days from the date the chair of the Planning Commission signs the written determination. Now, that out of the way, we have 6 of the 7 planning commissioners present. Commissioner Thomas is trying to work through technical difficulties to get logged in right now, so he should be along presently. There he is right there, speaking of the devil. We're all accounted for. So let's run through this pre-meeting really quick. We do have a training session that I want to give some time to staff to do. So let's ask questions that we need to get answered here and try to save most of the conversation for upstairs. First item on the business agenda for tonight is the minutes from our previous meeting of a month ago. Any questions, comments, thoughts on the agenda?
They look good to me, but it's been a while.
We're just going to skip the planning commission calendar. Let's save that conversation for the next meeting. There's no point in doing that right now. And then Wasatch Sheds, Larry.
So Wasatch Sheds is, and many of you are probably aware, it's right west of Home Depot. The guy's kind of established and set up operations without a business license. His intent is to purchase or lease the property and improve it to set up a permanent sales location there. However, to aid him in that, he is coming to the Planning Commission to ask for temporary use approval for no longer than 150 days. And as you can see in the 25 conditions of approval, there's some benchmarks that he's got to meet. If he doesn't, your approval of the temporary use permit doesn't mean it'll be issued. It won't be issued until he brings meets all the conditions of your approval. And then if it's not issued within 30 days, then he won't get a temporary use permit. That's benchmark number 1. If he's able to do all the things in the conditions of approval within 30 days, then he has 90 days to apply for site plan approval. And that actually means an application into the city with drawings and engineering and that type of thing, that he's serious about developing the site for a retail site to sell his sheds. If he doesn't do that, then that will cause expiration of the temporary use permit. And then regardless of where he's at in 150 days, it expires within 150 days. So the longest from this very day that he could be in business would be 6 months. And that's saying if he doesn't get issued until or issued for 30 days, but he should not be conducting business right now because he does not have a license. And so in a nutshell, that's Wasatch Sheds. So.
Are we allowed to deny the application based on the fact that he didn't ask for permission first?
I think a temporary use is fully within discretion, and my volcano just fell down. I don't,
Sorry,
Duncan, it's not a conditional use permit, so it just is a temporary use permit. I don't know if that would be a good reason to deny it. because he is showing some faith by coming in and
I
I would
I
say
know.
if he does meet all the conditions, then this should be granted.
I was kind of laughing because we had that happen one time with that insurance agency there on Redwood a couple years ago, if you remember.
yeah, I do.
That's one of those ones that stuck out in my brain. So I just had to
Yeah.
poke the bear a little bit. Trish might remember that one actually. Okay, perfect. Any questions for this one, guys? All right, Sunbelt Rental. Larry, you're still on. Looks like you got most of the agenda tonight, huh?
No, I've got half. Ray's got the other half. Sunbelt Rentals is off Airport Road. It's not right on the corner of 78 South and Airport Road, but it is back in. It will front on Airport Road. It is exactly what it says. It's a place like a diamond rental or what Dill Rental used to be, where construction companies or homeowners can go and rent, things for their yards or party things or larger equipment. I don't believe there's a rental company right now in West Jordan, and so I think this will be a good addition to the site out there. It's in a good location. It's right next to a glass company and borders the UDOT yard to the west, and across the street, of course, is the Air National Guard. So I do believe this is a good commercial use for this location. Foursquare Property is actively working on tenants for the hard corner of 78th and Airport Road. And probably in the next couple of months, they will be bringing those for approval. And those will be much more retail or service oriented than Sunbelt Rental is. So.
Excellent. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Gardner on this one?
I have a general question that applies to, I think, all of them. When we look at the conditions of approval, we always reference the 2009 City Code. Mm-hmm. I know some sections are more recent than 2009. I was more curious as to why do we still reference to it as the 2009, and when would that change?
Because I don't know, Duncan, maybe you can answer that. I think that's the title.
So all that is it's the 2009 just refers to the last time that there was a major complete overhaul of the city code. And generally that occurs about every 10 to 15 to 20 years. And so, let's say the next time we do that is in 2025, then we start calling it the 2025 city code. And generally what happens is that in any major revision like that, then you'll change the numbering system. And so for instance, in the last code before the 2009 code, I think we had titles that numbered up to like 88 or something like that, whereas now we only have 16 titles. So it basically just refers to the last major revision and the current numbering system. That's all it is.
Beautiful. Excellent.
And the reason we reference 2009 City Code rather than specific chapters and sections is so that the applicant's aware that we enforce the entire code that's applicable to them, and so they can't argue and say, well, you never said which section. So,
but with intrinsic within the statement of 2009 City Code, we're saying as amended. Anything that's changed since then, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, effectively, yeah, we're saying the 2009 code as amended through 2020 or whatever. Exactly.
Anything else, guys? Okay, moving right along. Next up is Nielsen's frozen custard. I think we're all excited about this one. Larry, anything we need to know on this one? This is pretty straightforward.
This is like the best day of my life when this thing gets.
If only it were more on the east side of the city.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Those dang West Siders get everything. So it's right behind Smith's. I think it's a good location. I think it's going to be a great thing for the city. So, yeah. Any questions for Nielsen's frozen custard? And you can't ask if we get free frozen custard because that's not okay.
Matt, can I quote you on that east side, west side part?
Yeah. That'll be part of my platform, Mayor, when I run against you in 3 years. Any questions regarding this application? All right, good. Next one up is the Trujillo Road rezone. Larry, one more time, sir.
And I think most of you were on the planning commission. Maybe Pam wasn't, but when the Gary Cannon and the nurse daycare rezoned their property on Redwood Road to professional office in preparation for building an office. Mr. Trujillo wanted to join in on the application, but he was too late. He didn't get a hold of the applicants in time, so he's having to do it on his own. And he just wants to make sure that his property is consistent with what the other property is rezoned. So if that ever develops into office, he will have the opportunity to participate in that. It matches the land use map. And so I don't see any problems with this or concerns with this.
Okay, any questions on this application? Okay. All right, Mr. McCandless, you're up, sir. We've got.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me?
8929 Foundations Cove.
Yes, this property is it's currently zoned the professional office, and the Cerebral Palsy of Utah would like to build a new building there to house residents. As I said, the property is already zoned professional office, and they're just simply applying the senior housing overlay to that designation. The other part of this is that we are recommending as a staff that the general land use map be revised or amended from neighborhood commercial to professional office. I know the applicant's going to be there, and I think he's got a PowerPoint presentation they'd like to share, and then they'll talk about what's proposed, the number of units, what they're envisioning for that property. But at this point, we don't want to get in the weeds with the layout of the site or any of that. That'll happen during the site plan review process. So we're just looking at the rezoning at this point tonight. The other part of this is that the Planning Commission, or one of the things in the code is that the Planning Commission, what we're looking at is one of the permitted uses is called an assisted living center. And so that's what we're calling this. It says that a permitted use or a conditional use in the PO zone is an assisted living center, independent elderly housing, nursing home, or similar uses approved by the Planning Commission. So the Planning Commission will just need to make a decision as to whether or not they feel that this fits into that use category. So that's what's on the table tonight. Do you have any questions?
So is this SHO just so that they can have people stay there and have multiple people be able to stay there? Is it long-term care?
It is.
Are they a nonprofit organization, Ray?
Well, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. What was that?
Are they a nonprofit?
That I don't know.
Because that would affect our property tax, right? If they were.
If they're a nonprofit, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
That discussion though wouldn't be really relevant to our discussion, would it?
No.
No, that's right.
You're just looking at the design.
That's just the mayor and me. Sorry.
That's fine. Well, then city council can make that determination as
That's
well.
right.
But okay. Any other questions? Okay. Wow. Moving right along, Sherwin-Williams.
So this one is just located east of the Smiths out on 5600 West on 7800 South. So what you're looking at tonight is just the site plan for that use. One of the things that we had recommended is that they update their landscaping plan because they showed too much turf. So they've since done that, and I've got that in the PowerPoint slide deck. So This is a pretty straightforward plan. And, I just don't see any real issues with it. They do have building elevation drawings and they're colored renderings so that you can kind of see what the building's going to look like. So do you have any questions on that one?
Any questions, guys?
It's just not ice cream.
I know, it's sad.
But
We need an iceberg out there.
it will be close to the Chick-fil-A over there, so you can get Chick-fil-A, swing through, grab your paint, and go home and quickly eat dinner and then paint your bathroom. So
There's-
Isn't that right next door to the car wash that we recently approved?
yeah, see,
Yeah,
get
it
your
is.
car washed, then you can go get ice cream. I mean, you can do everything.
Even get your tires changed.
And coffee.
You have your choice of tire change places there.
And a taco.
And a taco. Wow. Sounds like a date. All right. Any other questions, guys? All right. On to the last agenda item, the text amendment. Let's talk ILZ again.
Yeah, you've been through this one before. As you may recall, and I've got some slides that show this, as part of that, the ILZ, we had put some street standards in that the code. One of the things that we have run into or run up against is that those street standards don't really comply with city engineering standards. And so what we're looking at doing is removing those standards and just making everything in the ILZ comply with the engineering standards. Let's see, there's a couple other minor changes to this. Let me just flip through it here and see. I think one of the things that we're looking at is just the setback of the buildings in the ILZ. I think the intent was to bring those buildings right up front, so that they're on the street corner. But in some cases in that ILZ, those aren't necessarily right up against a street. So we're just looking at modifying the building setback for that. The other part of that is that we're changing. We had required doors to be placed every so often in that front building facade. And so we think that the treatment along these the building faces can actually be accomplished in more ways than just adding another door. So there's one other section that just modifies that standard a little bit. So again, this one's pretty straightforward. We just think it's better to have a real consistent street widths and those right-of-way widths across the board.
Okay. Do they have that? Any other questions? Okay. Cool. Let's get to the training session. Duncan, you ready to go?
I am. So can we place up on the screen the handout that was emailed to Planning Commission members?
Yeah, that'd be great because I was just trying to find it in my email. I couldn't.
Did everybody see that? No.
Yeah.
Thanks, Larry. So yeah, Larry asked me to do some training on the types of Planning Commission decisions and recommendations. And this is kind of a chart that conceptualizes and puts all your decisions kind of on one page so you can see the types of decisions that you deal with. It's a little bit updated since the last version I did, I think earlier in the calendar year. There's really just two types of decisions or recommendations that you make. You basically have two hats. The one hat is your basic statutory role of what's required under state law as a planning commission, and that's kind of the bottom half of the chart. And then the top half of the chart is basically by city ordinance, the additional powers that the city council identifies are yours as a land use authority. but you're really wearing two different hats, and you almost have to think differently with each type of decision. And so let's start with the those on the top, the recommendations that you make as a land use authority. And a lot of these are on your agenda tonight that you've just been talking about in the pre-meeting. And as far as, temporary use permits, conditional use permits, subdivision plats, site plans, and occasionally you'll deal with some other kind of a special plan or study. But the bread and butter of what you do as a land use authority are those middle three: the conditional use permits, subdivision plats, and site plans. And you're not really acting as a planning commission as much as you're acting as a land use authority. And what that means is you're applying the laws and ordinances that already exist to the application that comes before you. So whatever state law is and whatever city ordinances and regulations are, when an application comes in, as a land use authority, you're simply applying those regulations. And if you see the second page, that maybe we can scroll down to that second page for a second, you're basically applying those general rules. Basically, if an application comes in, and let's say it's a conditional use permit or subdivision plat or site plan, or sometimes it's two or three of those all at the same time, then literally all you're doing is you're applying those rules to that application. And if they meet all of the requirements, then you have to approve of it. Maybe subject to some conditions, but you have to approve of it. If the application comes in and they don't meet the ordinances and regulations, then you identify which ones they don't meet and you can deny it. Or they have a chance to fix their application so that you can approve of it. But really, as a land use authority, it's that simple. You have very limited, if any, discretion. In theory, you have no real discretion. As it says on the chart, we can scroll back up to the top of the first page. There's really no discretion. You're just applying those criteria and making findings according to the ordinance. In fact, you can see out there to the right some of the main code sections that you're supposed to use as you're acting on each of these applications. And you literally just go right through the list. And fortunately, city staff is so good, you don't have to go to the city code each time. They're putting it right in their staff report, and they're walking you through the list, and they're telling you from their perspective, these are the findings as staff that they see apply to the application. And then your job as a land use authority is to say, okay, we agree with staff, or maybe staff missed something, or maybe we have questions on what staff did. But really, you're doing kind of a second review of what staff did, and you're making sure that the application does in fact meet all of the criteria of the ordinance, if that's the staff recommendation, or otherwise. You're just reapplying the code. So with your land use hat on, you really need to know how does the code work? And the staff report is intended to help you so that you don't have to be an expert on every part of the code, because the staff is assisting you. But at the same time, it's still kind of your duty to understand the general plan and code so that you can do your own analysis as well. And so any questions on what it is as far as what it entails to be a land use authority, what that hat means? Okay, so you're basically applying the law. Okay.
I could tell.
Sorry, who was speaking? I didn't catch who said what.
Oh, that was me. I could just sense that Pamela had a question, so I wanted to hear what her question was.
Oh, no. Sorry, I had the connection of the youngest.
Oh, you're talking to somebody else.
Sorry, yeah.
You got the mayor all excited.
So,
guys, any questions on this?
No, I do.
So I'll go on.
I just
go
want
ahead.
to appreciate what the staff does to help out. It makes, especially coming in all virtual. I appreciate all the hard work you guys do on those recommendations.
Good. And then the other part of the chart, the bottom part, is your main traditional role as a planning commission, which really is recommending legislative decisions to the city council. So instead of the top part of the chart where you're acting and making final decisions applying the ordinance, on the bottom part of the chart, you're just making recommendations to the council. You're not making a final decision. And instead of applying the ordinances and regulations that already exist, on this bottom part of the chart as a planning commission, you're actually recommending changes to the rules, changes to the code or regulations, right? Top part is applying the code and regulations. Bottom part is you're recommending making changes to the code or regulations. And keep in mind that part of our code is our maps, right? Our general plan map is part of the general plan. Our zoning map is part of our city code. They are land use regulations, basically. So on the bottom, like I say, it's things like zoning map amendments, land use map amendments, changing the land use titles of the city code, or changing the text of the general plan. You're going to see some recommendations coming up over the next year from the general plan committee to you that you'll pass on to the council after you review them. Or anything that's a mastered, anytime you get a master development plan or preliminary development plan, you're also making a recommendation to the council. Or anything that's a general plan elements, or like a transportation master plan or any other kind of master plan. And again, you're making findings according to the different elements in the set forth in the city code. And again, the staff report is the staff's recommendations to you. And there's kind of a weird word there, quasi-judicial. And what that basically means is you're not a legislative body, the council is, where they can use a really large degree of discretion to pass almost any law they want, as long as it doesn't violate the Constitution or a couple other limitations, as long as it fits the authority given by state law. But you have a much more limited role when you're recommending changes in the ordinances and code to the council. You're following a quasi-judicial set of criteria. You're basically applying the criteria in the code as you're giving a recommendation to the council. So you have some discretion, but it's really the council that finishes exercising full discretion, if that makes sense. So there is one exception to the rule where you, in some circumstances, you can, and if you go to that second page, normally if something meets the terms of the code, you have to pass it. If it doesn't meet the terms of the code, you have to deny it. But you can see something. The last thing I want to talk about is the pending regulation exception. And what that means is if you've started the process of updating the city code or some regulation, and somebody comes in with an application that regulation applies to, you can, in a sense, apply the regulation that you haven't adopted yet to the application, if that makes sense, even though you haven't quite passed it. It's kind of the exception to the rule.
We could apply the IOZ in this case, even though it's not yet approved.
Right. So yeah, there's some changes in the IOZ code right now that haven't passed the council yet. That's what you're referring to, right?
Yeah. So if we needed to apply street standards, we could apply the new street standards.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So even though you're in the process of recommending to the council and the council hasn't passed it yet, and an application comes in the IOZ zone, you can say, hey, we know what the code is now, but we think the code is going to be, this in the future. Once this ordinance passes, we're going to go back to the same street standards citywide, and we're going to apply those standards to your application. And we can do that because it's already in the process. It's already on the agenda. It's already in the process of working its way to be approved. And there is, and then in some instances, you kind of have to work with the applicant, and the applicant might say, well, I want to put my application on hold to see if it really does pass, or yeah, I'm just going to go along with it and assume it's going to pass, and I'll just agree to go with the regulations. So there, there is a little latitude there, but that sometimes you want to work with an applicant. But for all intents and purposes, you can apply the regulation even if it hasn't been passed yet, if it's in process. But that's all I had, unless you had any other questions.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? Cool. We are past time, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up and close the pre-meeting for the Planning Commission tonight and open up the actual general Planning Commission meeting. Welcome to our meeting for tonight, November 17th, 2020. We have all members of the Planning Commission present, plus the necessary members of staff. So we welcome all who are here, as well as those who are participating with us online, waiting to participate, during public comments or during their applicant presentations. Mr. Trujillo, I can see you raise your hand. Give me just a minute here to kind of get through my my notes here, then we'll jump in and ask you and see what we can do for you really quick. So a couple of things of business, guys, as we get going. First off, I've got to read this disclosure, and then I'm going to explain the rules for the public hearing, and as far as being able to participate in the meeting as a participant. So, due to the increased threat of serious illness and loss of life by the rapid spread of the COVID-19 virus, the chair of the West Jordan Planning Commission has determined that conducting this Planning Commission meeting at the City Hall or at another anchor location is likely to contribute to the spread of COVID-19 and would present a substantial risk to the health, safety, and welfare of the city's residents, participants, and observers. Therefore, pursuant to Utah Code 52-4-2074, the West Jordan Planning Commission hereby declares that the meetings of this public body will be held only electronically until further notice. This determination will expire in 30 days from the date the chair of the Planning Commission signs the written determination. Okay, now next point of note is regarding participation in the meeting. If you are here to speak on a specific item, we'll go ahead and open up public comment on each individual item, and at that point you'll be invited to share your thoughts. You'll have 3 minutes to share what you have to what you've got prepared. In order to do that, if you are on your computer, you can just hit the mute or the spacebar button at that point. That will unmute your line. If you are on the phone, you can use the *9 to raise your hand, which will alert us that you're interested, and then *6 to unmute your line. And if I forgot to mention, if you're online, if you go into the participants section at the bottom of your screen, there's a little option at the bottom of that allows you to click on raise hand. And again, that will let you raise your hand, letting us know that there is someone that wants to speak. So really quickly, just so we can make sure we address all the questions. Mr. Trujillo, what was your quick question? Julie, can we unmute him, or is he ready? Is he allowed to?
Yeah, I've allowed him to speak. He needs to unmute if he has a question, or
okay.
You can just explain that his item will be coming up.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead, Mr. Trujillo.
We were just checking the computer, make sure it was working.
Okay, perfect. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll get you when it's time for your item. All right, perfect. All right, with all that stuff out of the way, we'll go ahead and start with our meeting. The first item on our agenda tonight is regarding the minutes from our previous meeting of a month ago, October 20th, 2020. Any comments, conversation, discussion, motions for this first item?
Motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner England, seconded by Commissioner Allen. Any discussion to the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next item up is the 2021 Planning Commission calendar. So let's open this up to any discussion. We've got 2 dates each month as normal, except for November. So, yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory. Any questions or issues with those dates, guys?
Is it possible to schedule the third meeting where we meet with city council in advance? Similar to this?
Actually, they've already approved that on their last meeting, and I'll have to look that. Oh, actually, I have it. It
Looks like it'd probably be March and August.
March 30th and August 31st.
Thank you very much.
What was the second date, Julie?
August 31st.
Those are typically at 5:30, correct?
Yes. Subject to change for sure, but plan on 5:30.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Perfect. We have a motion by Commissioner Hatch, seconded by Commissioner Bloom. Any discussion to this motion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we're unanimous again. On to the last business item is Wasatch Sheds, 8895 South. You moved right along before I could get to the address. South Redwood Road, temporary use permit in an SC2 zone. Do we need to have the applicant present anything, Larry, or can we just move on with this since it's a business item? We don't need to have the applicant, do we?
That's up to you completely how much you want to do.
Do you guys, what do you think? Do we want to let the applicant take a minute? Do we need to have any questions for him?
I would just suggest if we have any questions,
Okay.
due to the size of our calendar, we just move along. And if we have questions, we can ask him later.
That's fair. Larry, do you want to give us the high level on that one then?
Okay, so Wasatch Sheds is proposing to locate on this piece of property. It's right behind the car lot the Planning Commission approved a couple of months ago. Wendy's is out on the corner of Redwood. This road goes to the Home Depot if you're entering off Redwood Road. It's an undeveloped site. It's in the SC2 zone. It was zoned the same time all the rest of the commercial uses were in that area. The applicant wants to have a temporary use to set up shop for his shed sales business until he can apply and receive approval for full site plan approval for the site. Now, the Planning Commission can grant a temporary use for 150 days, but no longer. And I've put in sufficient conditions. There's benchmarks that have to be met for the applicant that to bring the site into compliance. You know, the first benchmark is that he needs to be able to get the temporary use permit issued within 30 days of the date of this meeting. So you're approving the temporary use permit, but we're not going to issue it. That'll be done by staff until all the conditions of approval are met prior to issuing it. And then after that is done, then he has 90 days from the date of issuance to apply for site plan approval with the city. It's not the city's intent to ever make a temporary use a permanent use. And his desire is to make this a permanent location. Then he needs to develop the site just like every other commercial business is done. This is kind of an abnormal process, but it's trying to assist this applicant in getting his business going here in the city of West Jordan. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you. Any questions? I think it's pretty straightforward, guys. Well, we don't need to do any public hearing on this item, so we can make a motion. We can have a discussion. Anything anybody wants to add?
If nobody wants to add anything, I can go ahead and make a motion.
Please do.
All right, based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report and upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the Planning Commission approve this application.
I'll second that.
Is that you, Jay?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Bloom, seconded by Commissioner Thomas. Any discussion to the motion? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Slater. I know we didn't get to hear from you, but we appreciate your interest in doing business in West Jordan. We look forward to what comes forward on that. Moving on to our first public hearing item tonight is item number 4. This is Sunbelt Rental, 7668 South Airport Road for a preliminary site plan, preliminary subdivision plan amending Lot 4 of Jordan Landing Area 4 subdivision, and the conditional use permit for construction, sales, and service, including rental of machinery and equipment in a CM zone. McNeil Engineering, Robert Poirier, is that how you say that? I hope I didn't slaughter that too badly.
Poirier.
I wondered if that's how you said it, and I didn't want to try and get all fancy when I didn't need to be, so I apologize for not doing that right.
No worries.
The floor is yours, sir.
Okay, we're here tonight for a new commercial property. There's going to be some rental equipment for use at this property. And so as part of the process, we need to start with the subdivision, and we're dividing the current parcel into 4 additional lots. And we are also seeking a conditional use permit, which is required for this particular use in this zone. So there are 3 different items we're going to be looking at here. It's all pretty straightforward, and I believe it meets all the ordinances required for this type of development. If you have any questions for me, go right ahead.
Short and sweet. Any questions for the applicant, guys? Okay, we'll save you some time after the public hearing, Mr. Poirier, if we have any questions for you, okay?
Excellent, thank you.
Mr. Gardner.
So Sunbelt Rentals, if you can see my cursor, will be located approximately on a parcel like this. I've outlined where the whole subdivision for this parcel will be. And as I said, as you'll see in a later slide, it contains 4 lots. But Sunbelt Rentals will be across the street from the Utah Air National Guard. And then to the right next to B&D Glass, which is currently under construction. That was approved earlier this year. And to the rear of it is a UDOT, I think they call them maintenance yards, road maintenance yards. I think they service snow plows and other road equipment. I know they store salt there for spreading in the winter. And across the street is an undeveloped M1 piece across 7800 South. The site plan, and this illustrates what I was talking about, the 3 different paths. I didn't fully show out to 7800 South, but the Planning Commission has that in the stuff that was sent earlier today. So Sunbelt Rentals will occupy this site, and as you can see, there's 2 accesses off of Airport Road. This will be a shared access, and they'll be able to surround the entire building for pickup and drop off of rental equipment. The office will be up front where they will purchase the rental agreement for the product, and then they will pick it up out back, either if it's stored in their warehouse at this location or on the lot somewhere, or the larger equipment will be stored back here on a gravel lot. The dumpster is screened, so it meets all the provisions of code. They have a landscape, generous landscaping along this, which will be approved with the final site plan approval. But it does meet, preliminarily it meets all the section of the 2009 city code. This is what the building would look like from the north. As you're coming north, you'll see this side of it. You'll see the green roof of Sunbelt Rentals, and then the large warehouse type back here with some man doors and windows. And then from the south, this is what you will see coming in. And then, of course, the office area. And I like this because it looks like that's what you're expecting to go in there. It looks like a place where you can go rent equipment and get your hands dirty and that type of thing. It doesn't look like something that's beauty salon, so it's really a man's store. So, well, I'm not being homophobic. I'm just making a joke. So, but it looks good. You know, it's an all metal construction. It'll have different colors on the metal. It'll have a nice storefront, so it'll present well from Airport Road. The DRC did ask for a color change on the back of this. The warehouse portion of it, that's not reflected in this drawing, but I did discuss that with Mr. Milich when I spoke to him earlier today, and he said the applicant's willing to apply that color change to the warehouse portion. Other than that, staff recommends approval of the subdivision, of the site plan, and of the conditional use permit for Sunbelt Rentals according to according to the conditions of approval in the staff report, and those are listed separately by type of application. So, do you have any questions for me?
Chair, I do have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Larry, so this is for lot number 4, is that correct?
Correct. It's right back here. So
and then lot 5 is gravel, and that's behind it, and that's a part of lot 4.
I think this is lot 5. I think it's 1, 2. I think they're numbered. This was a lot out here, the B&D glass, and then these are too small, but I think it's 2, 3, 4, and then 5. So I think this whole thing is lot 5. Mr. Milich, maybe although Rob Poirier can probably answer that more effectively than me.
We're amending lot.
This is Austin Easter with MPV Properties, the owner of the site who's purchasing the site from Dan Milich. There are 4 different lots, and this is considered lot 4 of those lots. The lot 5 is the B&D glass site that is just north of this.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
And that the gravel portion is part of this lot 4.
It's labeled as lot 5.
And maybe on the recent subdivision plat, it was changed to lot 5, but there are 5 lots. We can have Rob confirm that.
I can see it in the email that was sent to us very clearly, the 5 different lots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah.
You know, this is Dan Milich. If I might speak for a second, I might be able to clear this up.
Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, the lot 3, the remainder parcel is where B&D glass is on the far northern portion of the property. Lot 5 is the parcel that Sunbelt Equipment is looking to purchase from us. That's what we call the middle piece, 2.84 acres. And then we have 3 lots proposed as part of the subdivision map along the 7800 south frontage, and that's lot 6 at the hard corner. What we'll call the middle lot along 7800 south is lot 7, and then lot 8 is the farthest western lot in the southwest corner of the proposed subdivision.
Okay. Any other questions for staff or anyone else?
I have a question for staff.
Yeah, please go for it.
The report shows a sign on the front and on the south side of the building. I'm wondering if city code allows a sign to be displayed on the north facing side of the building.
Yes, code allows 15% of any facade to have signage. So, yes.
So they would be able to add that without going through an entire process.
Yeah.
If that's something.
Yes. They would just take out a sign permit. We approve signs through building permits in West Jordan, so they could just take out a sign permit anytime.
Chair, if I may.
Yeah, go for it.
Larry, I'm looking at the revised subdivision plat that was sent on earlier today. I have a little bit of anxiety about the quantity of access off of Airport Road. There's 3 of them, I mean, a ballpark within 500 feet of each other. I tried to look in the city code. I didn't find anything earlier today in the short time I allotted myself to find it. What is the code pertaining to that? Is there a certain distance they have to be apart?
Yeah, or if it's amended by a traffic study. If you see the farthest one to the north, that's a shared access with B&D Glass up here. And then this one down here will be a shared access with these other developments. Bill Baranowski's the traffic engineer, but Nate Nelson, who's our engineer, could probably answer that in a much more educated way than I would. Or maybe Mr. Milich could answer it also. But you're correct. We do try to keep these accesses as far back from the intersections as possible to avoid safety issues. So, Nate, I don't know if you can answer that for that question for us or not. So, or maybe
Yeah,
Daniel.
It's been reviewed by staff and in the context of a traffic study, and based on the type of development, it's actually one of the better sections of Airport Road there, where there's actually two traffic lanes and a center turn lane. Airport Road has issues all the way from one end to the other, but we were fine with this and feel like it meets the needs of this development and works from a traffic point of view.
Any other questions? Austin, I'm assuming that your hand was raised for the comment you made before. I'm just going to go ahead and lower your hand here. All right, this is a public hearing, so we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing just so that we're all on the same page. I'm going to give you a quick rundown on those rules again. If you are interested and you are on a computer, please raise your hand, and then when it's your turn, you can use the space bar to unmute. If you're calling in, please use *9 to raise your hand, and then use *6 to unmute. So at this point, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for the public comments. Dan, did you have something else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that, you know, as the property owner here, we're very excited to have Sunbelt come forward and propose this application and get into contract with us to buy this property from us. They've worked very diligently with staff and us to come up with this site plan and make it fit into the property as well as it possibly could, and including understanding that our intent is to develop the balance of the property and giving us adequate room and common access to develop a scenario as is conceptually shown on the submittal plan. So we're very excited about this. I know I do not think there's another equipment rental in the city of West Jordan now. So I'm pretty sure that the city is in need of something like this, and it's always good to provide something that is a needed commodity in the city that we do work in and enjoy being in it ourselves.
Thanks, Dan. Good to hear from you as usual. Anybody else? I got another hand here. Let's see. Tanner Morrill.
I think this is a great idea to compete with some of the other big box stores that are doing, rentals.
I agree. Thank you. Anybody else? We do have quite a list of people attending. We'll just give you about 10 more seconds to get your hand raised if you want to say anything. Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing for this item. Bring this back to the Planning Commission for further discussion or for possible action.
Be happy to make a motion.
Please do.
Okay. First motion, based on the information, findings, and conditions of approval set forth in the staff report and upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the Planning Commission approve the preliminary site plan for this application.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Allen, seconded by Commissioner England. Any discussion to the motion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are unanimous. Mr. Allen.
Based on the information, findings, and conditions of approval set forth in the staff report and upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the Planning Commission approve the preliminary subdivision for this application.
I'll second.
Second that. Go ahead, Pamela.
Motion by Commissioner Allen, seconded by Commissioner Bloom. Any discussion of the motion? Okay, again, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, unanimous again, once again, Mr. Allen.
All right. Third, based on the information, findings, and conditions of approval set forth in the staff report and upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the Planning Commission approve the conditional use permit for this application.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Allen, seconded by Commissioner Shelton. Any discussion to this motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Awesome. We are unanimous. Thank you guys for all those who participated. I think this is going to be a great idea, a great plan. It's a good fit for the area. So we're excited to see this come forward. And good to hear from you as always.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next item is Nielsen's Frozen Custard, Highlands Center. This is at 7652 South Highlands Loop Road. Preliminary final site plan, conditional use permit for a fast food restaurant. This is final development plan and preliminary and final subdivision plat in an SC2 zone. Peterson Development, Barrett Peterson is the applicant. Do we have someone here representing the applicant tonight? Kayla Nichols, got her hand up. I'm assuming that's who we're hearing from tonight.
Yes,
Floor
I'm
is yours.
Peterson Development tonight.
Welcome. Floor is yours.
Appreciate it. We are really excited to bring this restaurant to West Jordan. And tonight, I think Doug Nielsen is also attending. So if he has anything to say, he may chime in. But we are excited to bring it to West Jordan, but specifically to this location. Working on the Highlands Master Plan and the Highlands Center, we think that this restaurant will just add more vibrancy and life to the center. And we are really excited about the location. Nielsen's, if you remember, when we rezoned this property, the Nielsens really wanted this location rather than any of the existing lots we had because of its location next to the open space and future park. They have the same dynamic in South Jordan and it has thrived. So they're really excited about this location. About the site plan, we've worked really hard to mitigate any potential traffic issues and any potential pedestrian conflicts through our site planning on this. A lot of thought into where people will go, where cars will go, trying to mitigate issues with future high density housing to the west and to the north, trying to accommodate the trail going through and making that a pedestrian access point as well. So I hope that you will see how much work has gone into this as far as thought and intent in making this a really successful restaurant site. As far as parking even, we've had additional parking. I know their site in South Jordan has had some parking issues, and so we wanted to address that issue and make sure that there's sufficient parking. As far as stacking, that as well, the South Jordan location has a little less stacking, so we made sure that that was sufficient. And the safety of the pedestrians going through the site and around the site, we just hope that we have mitigated most of the issues that might happen as far as site planning. And we're just really excited.
Excellent.
This is Doug Nielsen. Can I say something? Is that
Yes,
okay?
sir. This is your application.
I just want to tell you from the whole Nielsen family, I think there's many of us in on this night. They won't all chime in, but this is so neat for us. We are so excited to do business in West Jordan. Kaylin, she'll tell the technical stuff of this site. For us, this is a dream come true site. I mean, looking at this with 49 car spots and a drive-through that can stack an unbelievable amount of cars, but not just that, it's around the parking so that it doesn't cut through the parking at all, which is just phenomenal. At our South Jordan location, it cuts through the parking and we can stack 20 plus cars, but this does the same amount and doesn't impede any on the parking. And then we've got our patio, large patio out on the east side that goes down into that just beautiful grass area. We look so forward to having the community create a tradition of meeting there, just like we have in other locations. So we are really grateful for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions any questions at all for the applicants? Okay, we'll save you guys some time after the public hearing if there's any questions that we need addressed. Mr. Gardner.
So I'll quickly go through. I think that Kaylin and Mr. Nielsen did a fantastic job. As you remember, this was rezoned last year to community commercial to allow this use, and you can see it's this little tiny site behind the Smiths. This is the most active commercial area in the city right now. There's a lot of stuff going on. Mr. Nielsen and Kaylin described the site plan beautifully. This is this plaza area. I think is much larger than the one in South Jordan, but it's right next to the park. So I think the detention area park, Peterson's is going to build a playground to this end right here. So it will be just a great family location. There is a trail running down here, and then a trail will go all the way through next to the open space. And as Mr. Nelson said, this is a lot of stacking space. It's a little over 22 cars, and even if they need to, they could come back this way. There's about 50 parking stalls, which I believe will fill up quite often. It's a great company and a great business. That's the site plan. This is the 1 acre lot, or the lot behind the Smiths, as you can see on the subdivision plat. To my left is the landscape plan. I really think that they put a lot of effort into this landscape plan to make sure that it's surrounded by trees and it has a nice presence from the road. I don't need to talk much about the elevations because it's exactly the same store as what is in South Jordan. This is be a great business for West Jordan, not only to purchase Bros and Custard, but it's a great place for younger people to get their first experience working, because I've had children work there for the Nielsens, and it's just a wonderful company to work for too. Not that that has anything to do with my recommendation for approval, but it's more the Custard than anything. But with that being said, this meets all provisions of 2009 City Code. The staff recommends approvals.
Excellent. If we learned anything from this fall, is that West Jordan loves new places. That Dutch Bros was crazy busy. I'm glad we've got the stacking issue figured out here, so we won't have cars in the middle of the street.
And I think that this will probably rival Dutch Bros. So, but I think that this is a much better setup the way it's been designed. So
yeah, I think this is great. Any questions for staff?
I just have one comment. I like the name choice of Nielsen's Park Lane. I like the name of that lane.
I have to say, as someone on the west side, this is a much welcome business for the side that I think is going to attract people from not only West Jordan, but from Magna and West Valley City.
Absolutely.
I'd just like to add, I'm impressed by everything. There's been a lot of thought, you can tell, put into the layout and the design of this. So much appreciated.
Okay. Any questions?
I have one question, and I can echo everything that everybody else said.
Way to ruin the good mood here, Alan.
No, it is fantastic. Larry, you showed the zoning map, and there's a swath of green through there as well. And you indicated, of course, there's a trail system along the roadway and then up along the east side of the lot. Is that essentially what we're talking about with this park and open land?
No, it's this large detention basin that's here, and they'll be building a playground up here that'll be dedicated and dedicated to the city, and the city will maintain it. So this is the grass area. You've probably seen it. What this area, now these maps aren't, you're an engineer, I know, so they probably, for planners, they look wonderful, but engineers, they drive crazy because they're not terribly specifically accurate, right on. But what runs through here is not only a large storm drain line, which dumps into this pond when it rains, but also there's a transmission line, water transmission line that's coming from that new water tank that's being built right through here. And so this was a tricky site to develop, and all of the building and stuff is outside of that. This is mostly landscaping and that type of thing. And so the edge of road and the trail system. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. So.
Oh, that's beautiful. Bring on the Custard.
Is that part of a wash there? Is that what I'm seeing that's kind of running from the north, running south and into the east of that?
It was a wash, but this wash will is similar as we've done similarly in other developments where these washes are deep and unattractive. It will be piped and then kind of landscaped over the top or made look better. Yeah, but through the Nielsen side, it will be a lot of it will be running through a paved parking lot area, and there'll be easements and accesses for the city to get in there to maintain anything that may occur on our stuff. So,
excellent. Any other questions? All right, this is a public hearing, so we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for this item. If anybody's got anything they want to share or comment on, just please go ahead and raise your hand. All right, about 5 more seconds, and then I'm gonna. All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public comment for this item, bring it back to the Planning Commission for further discussion or action.
I'll go ahead and make a motion if that's okay, Chair.
Please do.
Based on the information and the findings and conditions of approval set forth in the staff report and upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the Planning Commission approve the preliminary site plan for this application.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Hatch, seconded by Commissioner Bloom. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Commissioner Hatch, number 2.
Based on the information and findings and conditions of set forth in the staff report and upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the Planning Commission approve the preliminary subdivision for this application.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Hatch, seconded by Commissioner Bloom. Any discussion to this motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, number 3, Commissioner Hatch.
Based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report and upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the Planning Commission approve the final development plan for this application.
I'll second.
Motion again by Commissioner Hatch, seconded by Commissioner Bloom. Any discussion to the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, last one.
Based on the information and findings and conditions of approval set forth in the staff report and upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the Planning Commission approve the conditional use permit for this application.
I'll second.
Again, motion by Commissioner Hatch, seconded by Commissioner Bloom. Any discussion to this motion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we are unanimous across the board on all 4 of those there. So we are excited for Nielsen's Frozen Custard. Thank you guys for wanting to come in and help be part of our community. We appreciate it. Moving along to our next item, just wait for the slides to catch up, is the Trujillo rezone 8601 South 1700 West, rezone of 0.12 acres from RR1A rural residential 1 acre lots zone to a PO professional office zone. Victor Trujillo, the floor is yours, sir.
Excuse me?
The floor is yours. The application is ready for you to present.
Oh, I just wanted to say that earlier this year, you rezoned the area behind my house, and I was hoping that I was included in that, but I wasn't, so I had to make a separate application for this, and I was just hoping that we could change it and be part of the same lot. I think for West Jordan City and myself and anybody in the future might benefit from this for the rezoning, and just think it's a positive thing for West Jordan.
Perfect. You don't have any plans to do anything with it. It's just so that you're ready in case something decides to come down the line.
Exactly.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? All right, Mr. Trujillo, we'll save you some time after the public hearing if there's any questions, okay?
Yes.
Mr. Gardner, last one for you.
So this 0.12 acres is right on the corner of 8600 South and Redwood, as Victor said. It conforms to the future land use map, and so staff recommends approval of this application. So
we're just going to keep it simple tonight. Any questions for staff? If we're not careful, this is going to be the longest, shortest meeting we've ever had. All right, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for this item. If you're here for item number 6, the Trujillo zoning map amendment, the time is now yours. Please go ahead and raise your hand. Give you about 5 more seconds. Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing for item number 6. Brings us back to the Planning Commission for discussion or action.
I'll make a motion.
Please do.
Based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report and upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the Planning Commission forward a positive recommendation to the City Council to rezone 0.12 acres from RR1A rural residential 40,000 square foot lots zone to PO professional office zone.
I'll second that.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Allen, seconded by Commissioner Thomas. Any discussion to the motion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, we are unanimous. Mr. Trujillo, I think this is a great idea, so thank you. Moving along to item number 7. Sorry. Foundations Cove zoning map amendment and staff recommended general plan land use map amendment. This is at 8925 South, 2700 West, rezoning of 1 acre from professional office zone to professional office with a senior housing overlay, and a staff recommended general plan land use map amendment from neighborhood commercial to professional office. Cerebral palsy of Utah, Shelley Petty is the applicant. We have Shelley on the line for a representative. There we go. Go for it.
Right here.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Do we have our slides or?
I think Mr. McCandless is working on those for you.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll just go ahead and start. We've been in the West Jordan area. You've probably
Did we lose her?
Area since 1985. The two group homes, one is right there located by the Maverick, 7800, and the other is located over by the Mountain America Credit Union. And we have the other property now that is our day training facility that is located on 90th South, just north of Reams. So what we would like to do is take that property there and make it into a, we already have the day program, but we would also like to add some accessible, affordable housing there. The problem that we've seen is that there's not enough accessible housing, affordable housing for folks with disabilities and the elderly. So the plan is to maybe redo our day training program, which the one that's there now you probably remember is the pediatrics office. And we would like to just make it all clean, take that building down, put up a nice new building, and then put the, you can see the building there, and then put the apartment sites right behind that. So they have the view of the golf course. And yeah, that's kind of what we want to do. And we've, like I've said, we've been in West Jordan since 1985, and they helped us out by donating land for us to build those group homes on, which we were very much appreciative of. So this is what we'd like to do at this point. And Justin can explain to you what we want to do.
So this is Justin Epler. I'm with AJC Architects, working with Foundations for Independence on test fitting this site. And we're excited to be here presenting with them on this request for a rezone for the senior housing overlay. Just like to go to the next slide. Like to point out one reason we feel like this is compatible is there is a senior housing function across the street with the Beehive Homes of West Jordan. We feel like this will be continue to be a nice transition between the commercial block to the south with the shopping center, their single family residential to the north. This has always kind of been a transition piece. It's in the commercial zone, and with the addition of the residences, we feel like it'll continue to fill that transition role, and will continue to support the day center. Next slide. Ray will probably get into this a little bit. This just shows the existing land use map. Next slide. Our request to rezone with the overlay. Next slide. This shows our test fit. This is what we call a conceptual design. It's still early. It's just representative of us showing the client what we could fit on the site with the new zoning. Basically, there's not enough room to do a van turnaround on the site, so they would have a van stop out on 2700, and then accessible pathway into the building with the existing day center placed around the center of the site with the housing that would be in the back. There's 25 apartment units that are a mix of 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. And as Shelley mentioned, the tenant amenity portion overlooks the golf course and the Wasatch Front Mountains. Next slide. These are just some conceptual elevations showing that we would be respecting the zoning requirements for durable materials and character of architecture. Next slide. We'll continue to move through these. The windows are of a scale that kind of represents a single hung, so they feel residential and help break the building down. Next slide. And then this shows you how in a 3D form this test fit works on the site. We're pulling back as in respect of the setbacks required against the single family zone to the north, and tucking our building up against the mass of the shopping center to the south, and allowing plenty of breathing room up front where we're kind of measured up against the single family homes. So you can just flip through the next 3 slides. They're just different 3D perspectives of what this might look like. And that wraps up our presentation.
Very cool. Any questions for the applicants? Okay, we'll reserve you some time after the public hearing should there be any questions. Okay. Mr. McCandless, you are on mute, sir. There you go.
There we go. We'll get the slideshow up here for you in a second. Okay, so Mr. Hepler has and Shelley have kind of described what's being proposed on the property. At this point in the process, though, all the Planning Commission is looking at is whether or not to apply the professional office or the SHO, senior housing overlay, to the existing professional office zoning. Let me just scroll down through here. Again, this is the site. The Reams is located here, the golf course here. There's a canal that's on the east side of the property. The zoning ordinance currently does not allow multifamily housing unless it's located in specifically exempted areas of the city and or meets other criteria. Senior housing is one of those exemptions from the cap and grade ordinance. This is just the current future land use map. Right now it's zoned professional office, but the land use designation is for neighborhood commercial. What we're doing is, again, they're applying the senior housing overlay to that professional office zone. And what we as staff are also recommending is that professional office or that neighborhood commercial land use designation be changed to professional office. Mr. Hepler's just gone over these other slides. In this case, it's already zoned professional office, so those building heights and setbacks are already established under that zone. What this does is it just allows for that, for this to be developed out in the future for multifamily housing to accommodate the residents with cerebral palsy, and we feel that fits under the definition of an assisted living facility in the zoning code. Our recommendation is for approval. We don't see any real issues with it at this point. Again, this is not the site plan review for the property, and we're not looking at the site plans or what the building looks like at this point. That'll come at a later date. But our recommendation is for approval to change that zoning designation to an SHO overlay and also change the future land use map to professional office land use designation.
Okay, I've got a question before anybody else jumps in. So I asked this in the pre-meeting about the overlay. Does the senior housing overlay, does that allow for persons of all ages to live in that area, or are we just throwing that on there? I mean, explain that to me. I'm not looking for a way to beat up this application, but I want to make sure that we're doing this the right way.
Here's how it reads right now. The assisted living centers. This is approval by the Planning Commission. So the Planning Commission can approve assisted living centers, independent elderly housing, nursing homes, or similar uses in that zone as a conditional use. So as far as age is concerned, the SHO does specifically say that the occupants have to be 55 and older.
But as a conditional use, we can apply these other items, and that would allow them to circumvent that age requirement of the SHO.
Larry, do you have any thoughts on that?
I'm just wondering if we're narrowly boxing ourselves in, or if we need to address this as a city and find another overlay that can be applied here.
No, so your concern is that you want it restricted to the seniors, correct?
I don't want to restrict it. I want to make sure that we're not restricting it to the seniors. Are we allowed to do that?
No, because in the ordinance, the text of the ordinance, it says they have to be 55 or older. And so without an ordinance amendment, you'd have to follow the ordinance. The Planning Commission doesn't have that kind of discretion. So it'd have to be changed in the text of the ordinance, the senior housing overlay.
I'm under the impression that this would be for all ages for cerebral palsy, not just for elderly.
And that's where my concern is that we're trying to allow them to do something that's really good, and I have no problem with it, but we're putting it under an SHO in order to accommodate the higher density. Again, no problem with that, but the senior housing overlay specifically says 55 plus, and we're not restricting this to 55 plus residents. And so I'm wondering if we need to, I mean, and I know we don't have any authority on that. I just want to make sure that we're talking about it so that when the city council listens to these notes, they can hear our thoughts on this. Is this something that needs to be addressed at a legislative issue level before we move forward?
I do think that under the cap and grade ordinance, there's an exemption for nonprofit housing of this type. So I think that under the cap and grade, you're protected so that it can be occupied by all different ages. So I'm corrected on that. So
can we put that like as a condition of approval or recommendation on this? That be verified before it's presented to city council, just so they have the facts.
Yes. Do you have any problem with that, Ray?
No, I don't.
Okay. So
I don't want to make this onerous, but I also want to make sure that we're giving the city council all the facts.
Yeah, I would make that direction to staff, and we will, if you just make that direction to staff, then we'll make sure that it has the right designation, so there's no hiccups. So.
Okay, I'm done dominating the conversation. Any other questions for staff?
Yeah, I've got one.
Please.
I know we're not approving any buildings at this point. My question regards the height of the building and simply, their preliminary plan for building looks like it's 3 stories. And is building of that height allowed with this zone and overlay?
It is, and the professional office zoning district allows up to 40 feet of buildings. So the application of the SHO overlay doesn't affect that. And then they can go higher than that actually with a conditional use, but with 3 stories, I'm sure they'll be keeping under that 40-foot height.
Okay, it looks like we're good for questions now. We'll go ahead and open up the public comment on this item. So if you have a comment or a thought about this particular item, now is your chance to go ahead and raise your hand and share your thoughts. Oh, there we go. Tanner Morrill.
I think this is a fantastic idea. That with rents increasing all over the country, it's really hard for people with disabilities who can't have jobs to find affordable housing. Great job. And I guess we'll talk about the site plan later, but I wonder if they could rearrange the parking lot and the building to get the building closer to the road. That's all.
Thank you. Any other comments? Phone number 7072. Since we don't have your name on here, if you'll please just state your name and address for the public record, please. And we'll get you unmuted here in just a moment. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Barry Bessie.
And just state your address for us.
I actually represent the Reams Food Stores there, south of the parcel. Definitely would welcome something like this next to us. I would hate to see it impact our hours of operation. it's a little noisy back there in the mornings with deliveries, and we've got motors that run our refrigeration there to the north of the building as well. That I think moving the building closer to 27th would probably help with the noise. I just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Let's see, lower hand. Anybody else? Be about 5 more seconds. Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing for this item, bring this back for any discussion and action. I just want to say, I actually think this is a really great idea. I think it's going to solve a lot of problems. I just want to make sure we get it done right. And kind of piggybacking on the 2 comments, I think that moving the parking lot to the back may be a better solution. I know we're not discussing that tonight, but just as a suggestion, just because I personally hate driving by and looking at concrete seas. I'd much rather see the building and have the concrete hidden in the back. That's just my 2 cents. Anyway, any other comments or thoughts or actions for this item, guys?
Yeah.
Just a quick comment.
Hold on, Commissioner Shelton. Go ahead, Ray.
Oh, just one other thing. We did receive a phone call from Salt Lake County, and it's from the flood control. And just it's not part of the rezoning request, or the issue, but just so that the applicant knows that any disturbance within 20 feet of that canal will require a flood control permit. So I just wanted to bring that up. I think the applicant.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Shelton.
Oh, with moving the building closer to the front, I know this isn't the time for that discussion, but I think that's a great idea. May also give room for a van turnaround closer to the building.
I'd be happy to give a shot at a couple of motions if everybody else is ready.
Okay, I'm just looking at this. So on the zoning map one with the SHO, that's where we want to apply that additional condition if you go forward.
Right.
All yours.
Okay, based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report and upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the Planning Commission forward a positive recommendation to the City Council to amend the general plan land use map from neighborhood commercial to professional office as recommended by staff.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Allen, seconded by Commissioner England. Any discussion to the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, Commissioner Allen.
All right, based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report and upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the Planning Commission forward a positive recommendation to the City Council to rezone 1 acre of property located at 8925 South, 2700 West from PO Professional Office Zone to PO SHO Professional Office Senior Housing Overlay Zone, with the request for staff prior to that City Council meeting to ensure that the senior housing overlay zone will not preclude younger tenants within the building.
That works.
Okay.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Allen, seconded by Commissioner Bloom. Any discussion to the motion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Awesome. I'm excited. I think this is a great idea. I'm looking forward to see this continue to progress. Moving right along on our agenda tonight, guys. Highlands Landing Lot 209 Sherwin-Williams, the preliminary and final site plan. This is located at 7752 South, 5490 West. And the SC2 zone over there, West Jordan Development Group LLC, is our applicant Gavin Malia. The floor is yours.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, this is Gavin Malia with West Jordan Development Group, and we are very excited to bring our first project in West Jordan before you. A Sherwin-Williams store. I think Sherwin-Williams is a household name at this point, and we're very excited to bring Sherwin-Williams services and products to a part of town there that we understand is in need of Sherwin-Williams. So, we think that this project is relatively uncomplicated. I want to thank, before they speak, David Anderson at AWA and Ray McCandless for their good guidance in getting us to the point where we can show this to you guys. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. Mr. Anderson, did you have something you wanted to add as part of the applicant process?
Sorry about that. No, just I blinked off there for a minute, but no, this is, like Gavin said, pretty simple project. It's the lot's ready and developed, and shouldn't have any issues with it. So I'm here for questions if you guys have any.
Okay. Any questions for the applicants? Okay, we'll go ahead and save you guys some time to respond to any public comments that we need addressed. Mr. McCandless.
Thank you. This is a pretty straightforward site plan. The applicants are requesting preliminary and final approval of the site plan. It's the property is located at 5490 West and 7800 South on a corner. The access to the properties from the north off of the private street. Again, pretty straightforward with parking available on the south and east sides of the building. Plenty of maneuvering room. The dumpster is located here at the back of the building. I just wanted to show you what the building elevations look like. There's going to be a number of different materials and colors that are going to be used on the building. There's some architectural features here that's going to break up that wall plane. Again, we think it's a pretty straightforward request, and our recommendation is for approval, subject to those conditions in the staff report.
Okay, any questions for staff? Excellent. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for this item. The time is now yours. We'll give you about 5 more seconds. All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring this back to the Planning Commission for discussion or possible action.
I'll make a motion.
Please do.
I move that the Planning Commission approve the preliminary final site plan for Highlands Landing, Lot 209, Sherwin-Williams, located at 5512 West, 7800 South, in a SC2 zone, subject to the approval conditions listed on page 2 of the staff report.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Shelton, seconded by Commissioner Bloom. Any discussion of the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are unanimous. We look forward to this, guys. Thank you. This brings us to our final item for the night, which is to amend the 2009 City Code regarding interchange overlay zones, design and development standards relating to road standards and other requirements. Mr. McCandless.
Thank you. This text amendment came about following a review by the engineering department on one of our projects in our interchange overlay zone. We got to looking close the street standards that are part of this, what we call the IOZ, were actually adopted or approved as part of the when the IOZ ordinance was adopted. But the engineering department brought up some concerns about the widths of the streets and the functionality of the streets. And so at their request, they had asked that the staff had take another look at maybe eliminating those standards from the IOZ and just making it so that it complies with the city's engineering standards. In your staff reports, I just show you, I've got a legislative draft, and it just shows you what sections that it are taken out of the code. But what it does do is, rather than have its own standards, it just brings them back into the city's engineering standards. So we think that it's important for other developments that are going to happen in the future in these ILZ zones, to where they'll comply with engineering standards and alleviate some of these width problems. So, so I've got that in here. This is just the kind of the clean version of how it would read, and basically here it just says all street sections shall comply with the city's engineering standards. So that's pretty straightforward on that. There are a couple of other little fixes to the IOZ code. One of those is just the setback requirements for the commercial buildings. There may not be areas in the IOZ zone where those buildings actually front onto a street. And in the original text, it talked about bringing those buildings forward to those streets, but that may not apply in all cases. And so what we have done is taken out that front setback requirement. And the Planning Commission still sees all the site plans for buildings in these IOZs. So we really don't have an issue with handling those through Planning Commission approval of the site plan, rather than stating that has to be brought up to a street. The other section here is as it says, at least one functional door, window needed to be installed to break up the wall planes on some of these larger buildings. And so as I mentioned in the pre-meeting, there are other ways around this, and just by putting another door in to break up that wall plane. And so what we are recommending is that at least one functional door, window, or other significant architectural feature is approved by the Planning Commission. And again, this is through the site plan review process. Facing the street shall be located along the front face every 100 feet. So those are our recommended changes to the ILZ code, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Isn't the standard 50 feet on most other buildings? Is it specifically 100 feet just within this overlay?
It just it's specific to this overlay. That's right.
Why would we choose?
There are other standards in other sections of the code that do require buildings to be broken up. And for example, the commercial zone, you're right, it's 50 feet. But in the industrial zones, it's every, I think, 80 feet.
So the likelihood that we would see one of these significant features at the maximum of 100 feet is pretty slim.
Right.
Okay, then I don't have an issue with it. Any other questions for staff? Sorry, Ray, were you done? I just cut in and asked my question. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for staff?
I got one question.
Go for it.
On Q, where it says 0 lot lines for side yards permitted, is that for so they can have buildings more like maybe a San Francisco style setting?
Yeah, it's so you can put those buildings right straight up against the, right up against that side property line.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
I'm just wondering if you can clarify or explain what are some of the real world impacts that this change will make within the city?
As far as the streets
and also just with people making applications and the way they present their buildings, is it going to make a real significant change?
No, I don't think so at all. I think one of the things regarding the streets, I think one of the things that the engineers brought up is that that it'll improve the safety for the streets or on the streets, just by giving a little wider streets, because the street standards in here are somewhat narrower than are allowed by our normal engineering street standards. So it's a safety improvement. As far as the building locations, I just don't see any issue with it.
Okay, this is our final public hearing for the night, so we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for this item. Last chance if you're here and you want to hear your voice. Give about 5 more seconds. They're falling off. I think we're probably okay. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing for this item and bring it back to the Planning Commission for any discussion or action.
I have a question that I didn't jump in quickly enough.
That's just fine.
It says there's on item G is 4-sided architecture is required. If there's a 0 sight line, how does that 4-sided architecture work with a 0 sight line? Or is it just they just have to put it up even though no one can see it?
That's how it's written. That's
okay.
That's how it was adopted.
Okay.
We've had the ability, kind of jumping in on that, we've had the ability in some cases to approve that doesn't need to be as improved as the rest of the building. Is that something that's still going to be permitted within this overlay? I'm thinking specifically the Anayas Market, we eliminated the interesting feature along that west facing wall because it was so close to the building next to it.
Well, every building will go through a design review. We'll go through the design review committee, and then the Planning Commission will also have that opportunity to weigh in on those architectural features, whether they're needed or not.
Yeah, and I agree with Ray that I think that is one area where the Planning Commission does have discretion and common sense, because Trish said it's a good point, because make them put fancy stuff and then it's going to be 6 inches from another building. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So
just as long as we have the ability to make those decisions on a case by case, that's
I believe you do. Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I want to go home, so I'm going to make a motion. Based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report and upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move the Planning Commission forward a positive recommendation to the City Council for this request.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Quinney, second by Commissioner Allen. Any discussion to the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Well, we beat my expectations, guys. Good job. That was a big agenda.
Okay, Matt, can I say one thing? The City Council approved both Jones Ranch development zoning and the master development plan and master development agreement, and the Jordan Fields development over next to the track station. So both of those have been approved by the city council. So Jones Ranch, you'll probably early in the next year, you'll start seeing subdivisions coming your way. So
That's a big project.
yeah, that is.
Okay. Anything else, guys?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Excellent. We are adjourned. Have a great Thanksgiving, guys. We'll see you on, I think it's December 1st, right? We are adjourned.
Sounds good.
Oh, hey guys.
Did you have a question?
Oh, hi, Julie.
Hi.
Well, I had a question, but nobody's really here left to answer it from the commission, so I'll ask it next.
Was it on one of these items?
No, it was not. It was just a random question.
Okay, yeah, we don't take random questions on the planning commission, I guess.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, there's not an open public comment period like at the city council meeting. They have those comment periods.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you, Julie. Have
Okay.
a great night.
Okay, thanks. Bye.